broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Nick Solovich with Cherokee Media Group and Auto Remarketing. In today's session, titled Don't Get Owned, Marketing Your Pre-Owned Vehicles, we're going to learn more from Ian Cruikshank, the VP of Sales and Marketing at SpeedShift Media. But before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items for today's webinar. Please make sure you've dialed in using the phone number provided in your communication email, or you're able to listen via your PC speakers. We are recording today's webinar, and the recording will be made available to you as soon as possible after today's session. You will be in listen-only mode for this webinar, but we will reserve some time after Ian's presentation for a Q&A session. You can submit your questions at any time through the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel. And if we aren't able to get to your question today, don't worry, because we'll forward it on to the team at SpeedShift Media so they can respond directly via email. And lastly, if you have any questions or problems during the webinar, please click on the hand icon to let a member of our team know. So with more than 10 years of experience in digital marketing and advertising, let's bring on Ian Cruikshank from SpeedShift Media. Ian, the webinar floor is now yours.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the intro. Great to be here with everyone today. And as mentioned, you've got Ian Cruikshank here to take you through this little webinar. There's a serious details about me, and you can read those as we go along here. But frankly, I want to make sure that everybody understands, as I do typically in any of my talks, if you've seen me present before, that you understand that I'm really not all that serious. So if you're a fan of Napoleon Dynamite, I am as well. If you're a fan of Star Wars, well, clearly I am as well. And if you're just a fan of animals, well, we can work on that too, right? So we got a lot of potential here. I'll give you a little more context to that. My wife and I, big fans of getting dressed up for Halloween and other things. You know, you can see Han Solo here and Princess Leia. And Little Bo Peep, and it was supposed to be the Chippendale sheep, but clearly you can see that I don't know if I would make it to the Chippendale stage. Still working on that. Still working on that P90X or whatever it is to try to keep me fit enough. In any case, I'm coming to you from the Great White North. Simply put, our women ride moose bareback, our children read bedtime stories to polar bears, and we believe that maple syrup should be on everything. From here in Vancouver, BC, we run a very cool company that you may have heard of or you may not have heard of. Here's a few simple stats. Effectively, we've been running technology behind the scenes and running digital media solutions for Autotrader.com, Cars.com, if you're Canadian, Kijiji.com, Edmunds.com, and many others for quite a number of years, actually about 13 years. And really what is exciting in the last while is we've been bringing a lot of that technology direct to dealers. So after this webinar or at any other point, feel free to check out speedshiftmedia.com. There's lots of resources in the resource section, all that sort of good stuff. But that's a bit of the who we are relative to our company. So I'm going to open the floor here with a bit of a survey question, and we'll see if we can use a survey tool. I'm not sure if we're going to go that route. Our organizer can chime in here in a moment if we are. Otherwise, just think of it to yourself. So how much of your effort in your store are you putting to pre-owned vehicles? Clearly, if you're a pre-owned store exclusively, it's 100% of your effort. And in this session, we're going to go through a number of tools that are going to help you to better market those pre-owned vehicles at your location. But if you're a franchise store and you're competing for attention and you're competing for your efforts with folks that are marketing new vehicles and you're focused on pre-owned, or you oversee all of the marketing efforts, here's some significant reasons as to why we should get into pre-owned marketing and why we should really focus our attention, particularly as SAR is changing over the next couple of years. Having a keen eye on those pre-owned vehicles is particularly important. So are we going to go a survey piece? Chime in if you like. And we'll keep rolling along because it sounds like we're just going to go this route. So if you've been thinking in your mind how much of that effort, you're probably going to come to the same conclusion that we do on a regular basis. So 75% of the effort in a franchise location is focused on marketing new vehicles and 25% on pre-owned. And it's interesting, you're probably sitting there, if you're the pre-owned manager, you're probably sitting there thinking to yourself, well, I know, we hear this all the time, right? And there's no doubt as to why that's the case in a lot of different ways, right? The glitz, the glamour of those new vehicles, but also there's more new vehicles being sold in the marketplace, okay? More new vehicles being sold means there's going to be more of a focus on them. But here's a few reasons that you can take to leadership or that you can take to your own decision-making and say, why am I going to spend more money on pre-owned vehicles? Why are we going to emphasize pre-owned coming into 2017 and beyond? And here's a great stat for you, right? Gross margin significantly higher on pre-owned cars. Okay, whether we're talking about this stat in a percentage basis or whether we're talking about that stat within a particular dollar amount, right? So about 500 additional dollars per car specifically, right? This doesn't really change much year over year. It seems to be that specific amount, right? When we're talking about net profit, okay, same sort of idea, right? And in fact, net profit, because we're trying so hard to keep those numbers up, we're actually giving away dollars more and more year over year to get that new vehicle sold, right? So that new vehicle needs to make money in the fixed ops area, whereas you know that that pre-owned vehicle is making money right away. Okay, so this is important stuff. And in fact, that doesn't change, those statistics don't change when you're talking about domestic, imported vehicles or luxury vehicles, right? You're still going to do better in those pre-owned. In fact, the situation gets more dire, if you will, or more important to consider as you get into import and luxury vehicles. So I would suggest, and I think you, so many of you on the line would agree, that if you focus more of that attention on that pre-owned, that you can increase your bottom line on the revenue side. Because, frankly, we know in the marketplace, we've got some significant consumer behavior happening. And these are some things that are going to cause us to need to adjust the way we market those pre-owned vehicles. Consider, they're only coming to one store. That consumer is typically only going to visit one location to purchase their next vehicle. Right? If they go to one of those 0.4 or 0.2 or 0.6 stores, depending on the statistic you're looking at, it's because, unfortunately, at your location, you failed to deliver. Be it on the inventory or be it on the process, you failed. Now, that's not a great thing to think about. What's more important to think about is how you can help more people choose you as that first location. Okay? They know what they want, right? And they need to know that you've got that particular vehicle on the lot. And with pre-owned vehicles, it's significantly more difficult to get that message out. With the new car, you know, typically the assumption is that you've got that vehicle or that it is easy to get. With pre-owned vehicles, the assumption off the top is that you don't have that inventory, particularly if it is a vehicle that is off-brand. So not consistent with the brand of vehicle on your placard, right? If you're a Chevy store, the likelihood that you've got a great VW sitting on the lot or the likelihood that you've got an Audi sitting on the lot, right? It's not as concrete unless you're really communicating the specific vehicles that you've got out there, right? So to that end, we need to be marketing pre-owned vehicles on an inventory level, okay? And we're going to go over a few pieces here and you'll see why that's so important. Okay, so let's have a look at what's happening today. So typical digital marketing, typical things that are happening in your market today that are potentially not on an inventory level, right? Search engine marketing, when you're putting in branded keywords and all that sort of stuff, no, they're not on an inventory level most typically. When you're looking at non-branded keywords, again, the likelihood that they're in specific inventory is slim. SEO, when you're doing articles, right? You may be doing a specific article for a new review or something like that, but for the most part, they're not focused on inventory. Same thing with videos, same thing with brand offers, that sort of thing. You're putting display ads out in the marketplace, and this is typical display, right? Your brand message or your offer message, right? It may be specific to a make and model, but it's not specific to the piece of inventory, not specific to that VIN, right? To that specific vehicle that you've got on the lot. And that's what we're talking about. So Sponsored ads within Facebook. Again, not specific to that vehicle. Unless you take the time to choose individual vehicles and post them online, right, you're generally putting out more branded offerings or more make model specific offerings. And then the last piece, right, you can get into carousel ads a little bit more now, so you can do a little bit more with Facebook, but you can see that most of these pieces, right, only one of them is actually focused on inventory. Let's have a look here. Listings, right? Another piece focused on inventory. So these are areas that are fairly typical to support the inventory basis. In fact, listings the most typical. And oftentimes Facebook folks aren't putting in those specific things in the world of the Facebook ads. But let's have a look at these pieces. So going back to it, new car, assumption that you've got that inventory, right? So you've got those details available. You don't need necessarily to promote the vehicles at an inventory level. You've got the make and model ads out there. That may well be enough. It's good to get into specifics, but it might be enough. Whereas on pre-owned vehicles, no, it's not enough to be marketing outside of that or that inventory level. You've got to get into those specific details, right? So let's have a look at a few different things going on out there in the marketplace relative to what you need to drop. Things that you're doing today that you should stop, right? You're marketing pre-owned vehicles. Those specific ads that are focused on pre-owned vehicles, we'll look at the ones that you really should stop. The ones that you need to have in order to just be competitive, right? To just be there in the marketplace, to just be considered. These are the things that you need to have. We'll get into those. And then the need to win, those will be the ones that are a cut above, right? That you'll need to take a little bit more time, make that effort, and make sure that you are going to get through and make that happen. Okay, let's look at the need to drop first. What do you think of these, right? Think to yourself as you're looking at these ads, be you a franchised or non-franchised location, if you're an independent location, same sort of thing. You may be putting ads out there that just speak in generalities about the vehicles that you've got, right? Let's look at this one on the left so we can consider, hey, great, Westwood Honda, they're saying they've got Hondas. Lo and behold, wow, big surprise. Okay, so they've got pre-owned vehicles on the lot. Same thing, if you've got to go to McElvin, same sort of thing. They've got a couple GMCs on the lot. The great assumption. If you look in the text ads, right, same sort of thing. This is the text ad within our market. So in Vancouver, hey, we've got all sorts of cars. Okay, that really just doesn't tell the consumer enough. So when you're just putting out the message that says we have pre-owned inventory, you're just simply missing the mark. Okay, you're just simply not giving that consumer enough information to garner their attention, right? They need to know exactly what you've got. Now, need to have, okay? So the next level up from that stuff that you should just let go by the wayside. The need to have is when we're talking about putting specific vehicle mentioned, right? This is the make and model information that you're putting out into the marketplace. Now, of course, the important piece with these make and model ads is that you have enough of these particular makes and models to remain relevant over time without being dynamically plugged into your inventory. So these are ads where you're going to be able to create them on your own. So you're going to be able to say, hey, we've got great Civics on the lot, all shapes and sizes, years, that sort of thing on the lot. When someone clicks on that Shop Now button that you see down here, right, this Shop Now button that you're seeing at the bottom of this Facebook ad, you want to make sure that that's going to take them to a search results page that is filtered to Honda Civics. Don't make them hunt around when they get on your site to try to find Civics. Don't make them perform additional actions, because you know that every additional action a consumer takes on your site reduces the amount of people that stick around by nearly half, if not more. So if someone has to search for something, if someone has to click on a new link once they've landed on that landing page, if someone has to do anything, people are going to get to that next step. Okay, and that's just the reality of it. So looking at these text ads, same sort of thing. Right, we're talking about vehicles that are, you know, we've got RAV4 lines up, we've got some nice Lexus IS starting at 39.5, right? All sorts of good things that are more specific that should click right over to those search results page. And when you're actually constructing these things, okay, it's pretty straightforward. The way that you can think when you're constructing these vehicle ads, you want to be thinking of a few key factors, okay? You can see those lined up on the right-hand side. So you want to be thinking of those vehicles in your stock that you typically have available, right? You don't want to be changing these all the time. So if you're going to be thinking, okay, and you're at, CDRJ store, you're going to be thinking of those vehicles that you are typically going to have on the lot. Build out the ads, put them into that keyword spreadsheet, get them up into the Google ad machine, and make sure that, again, those links go to the filtered page, right? So you can create Chrysler ads, you can create Chrysler 300 or 200 ads, provided you've got enough on the lot, the Grand Caravan, all that sort of good stuff. Again, same thing with Dodge and all the different vehicles within Dodge. So you can probably create, let's think about it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 different ads, right? You can think of 20 different ads where you're going to be able to drive consumers to a filtered SRP page. That's pretty good for a fairly reasonable amount of invested time, okay? But if you're just putting up an ad that says, hey, we've got Chryslers, Dodge, Jeeps, Rams here available on the lot, you're probably not going to get the attention that you want. You've got to get more specific into those models. Awesome. Same sort of thing with Facebook, right? So you can create these, you can customize these ads that we saw on that first page there of the need to haves, and you can say, all right, I want to be focused on consumers in the market that are relative to Honda Civic, right? I want to make sure that we target this to the geography that I'm going to be able to support, and I want to make sure that we've got some detailed targeting going on there, right? So we create that ad group, we get all the details set up, and we can go into the market to make this work, right? So let's have a look at some of the pros and cons of this side of things, okay? So make and model search engine marketing is typically easy to set up, and it's good if you've got those vehicles in stock, right? So those vehicles in stock, right, if you've got those one-offs, it's pretty tough to create campaigns for these, right? It's pretty tough to make sure that consumers can see that activity. And the cons of it are, right, that it's time consuming, okay, you may not always have those things in stock, so you've got to turn on and off particular ads. It's not really scalable if you've got a lot of brands, so if you're an independent location and you're trying to put together these ads, really you don't have typical make models. Maybe you stock certain things, maybe you stock primarily European cars, or maybe you stock primarily Japanese cars, that sort of thing. You'd be able to do this kind of stuff, right? But you got to make sure that you keep an eye on those pieces. The SEM side of things is getting more and more expensive. That's the other con side. You can actually look at the chart, and we've done some research in the past, and actually if you go to speedshiftmedia.com/resources, you can pull up some previous webinars and events where we've spoken, and research papers, that sort of stuff, looking at search engine marketing. The cost per click in SEM has consistently been rising year over year over year. And last year it was at about $2.65. A few years prior it was maybe $1, $1.30, $1.40. So it's growing really, really rapidly. I've heard some research recently, some secondary research that I've come across where people are talking about a $3 cost per click. So it's continuing to rise, of course, as more and more people participate in that environment. Simple supply and demand economics. So another need to have, right? All of these folks that you may be familiar with here. Okay, if we're in the Canadian market, more familiar with Kijiji. It's effectively what eBay Motors is for us up here in Canada. Down in the US market, of course, all of these usual suspects that we can use to promote inventory, right? And I'm still a firm believer in making sure that your inventory is in one, if not a few, of these environments. Okay, now there's a big difference between having your inventory there and spending a whole bunch of extra money to promote, to get spotlights, to get premium listings, all that kind of stuff. There's other more efficient dollars that you can be spending today to get greater benefit out of that. But it is pretty vital to be part of this conversation, right? It's that trusted, vetted environment where people can do a cross comparison without being, without being in a situation where they're on a dealer's website where they're just looking at one message, right? They've got that simple comparison. Okay, so the pros, right? It absolutely aligns with how buyers want to look at pre-owned vehicles. right? So they can go in, they can see what's available in the market, and they'll drive a little farther for a pre-owned vehicle. They'll make a little bit more of a concession for that pre-owned vehicle. In fact, my brother-in-law, interestingly enough, is getting on a plane. He may already be down in LA. He's going down to pick up a very specific pre-owned BMW that he's wanted for some time, right? So people will go the extra mile to do that, but they've got to be able to find those vehicles in that concise manner. Now, the con side of things, clearly, there's a lot of these resources, so you have to be specific about what you're spending, looking at the response and the results that you're getting for each of those, all that kind of stuff. And frankly, this is not a winning style or a winning format, right? This just is what it is. You've got to do it, and you know, it's one of those necessary evils to a point. In fact, we've heard in the marketplace of folks that aren't participating in those environments and that have been doing pretty well, but generally speaking, being on those lists, having your vehicles in there in the most basic format where people can search is ideal. Okay, let's get into some winning, right? We're all more interested in the winning side of things. So when we're talking about winning with pre-owned, we've got to get a little more specific. We've got to get a little more, frankly, dynamic. And dynamic is a world that we play in, right? We spend a lot of time in the world of dynamic inventory, not necessarily in search, more in the display side and in Facebook side of things. But when you're getting dynamic about search, it can be a little bit tricky. But effectively what it is you're taking all of your inventory, putting it into the Google machine, right? It'll automatically, Google will automatically determine keywords, generate those ads, and the clicks, you can set it up so they go direct to the vehicle detail page for that specific click. So you can see from this ad, right, someone was searching for that specific vehicle, clicked on that vehicle within the Google machine, and it went right over to that specific page on Mainland Ford, right, a local Ford store not too far from us. So searching for that Ford F-150, you could be searching for F-150 Ford pre-owned, and you would be able to get this ad, because what's happening is the search is dynamically shifting to be able to put the most appropriate ad based on the construct of the information that you have within your inventory, and it's building ads on the fly, right? It's building ads dynamically. This is something that if you've got a team member within your crew, or if you yourself have the capabilities or have the time and inclination, you can dig into all of the YouTube DIY environments, you can dig into all the Google machine environments to decide that, yes, I want to do this dynamic search myself. I want to make it happen. I want to put it all together. I want to keep a handle on it. If you do, little suggestion, make sure you consider negative keywords, because you can get a lot of things going on there. We'll talk about that maybe in just a sec. But the kicker is, this may be arduous. It's not a super easy thing to do. So you may want to reach out to a partner to help. Here's a few friends of ours that you may want to reach out to get a little assistance in those areas. Now, on the pros, right, you can totally align with what it is that the consumer is looking for, right? You don't have to supercharge your thinking to get the right vehicle in front of the right user, right? The Google machine is helping with that. Okay, you don't have to keep updating and re-updating the inventory that you're putting into the system, right? Because you're actually just plugging in your inventory typically into the Google machine so it stays up to date, right? So that in turn gives you scalability and helps your inventory linking direct to VDP, right? So making sure that you've got that ability, right? You're putting in all those details and you're putting in the specific URL, the specific web address for that car, and that'll take you to the vehicle detail page of that specific car, right? The only other piece about this, as I said before, you may want to reach out to a partner. So the con side of things, frankly, that we've come across, this is the only one. All right, so then another winning strategy, inventory advertising on the display side, and this is a world that's of course near and dear to SpeedShift, is being able to get this inventory synchronized within the inventory that you've got on the lot and get it out there and promote it. So automatically loading inventory into a system. Oftentimes people need a feed, all that sort of stuff. Okay, find someone or work with someone that can get all that information automatically, or automagically, as I like to joke about it, directly from your site. Okay, going into the website, pulling up all that information, having to plug into a feed, having to get the vehicle detail page URLs, all that kind of stuff can be pretty arduous. Okay, so we're at the same time, you're going to want to work with someone that can find those vehicles, find those shoppers in the marketplace that are interested in those cars. So really rich behavioral targeting, okay, really rich contextual targeting to be able to really understand what that consumer is looking at, so you can, on the fly, in real time, match the right car to the right user, right? Those clicks should be going directly to the vehicle detail page, right? And that's quite a different thing. There's a lot of research out there looking at the search side of things, where in search it's maybe not as beneficial to drive them to the VDP. There is nothing in display that is going counter to the benefit of someone looking at a specific car, right? Say they're looking at that specific Kia Optima and they want to see the details. The only place you should take them is that vehicle detail page, not some special landing page, not some search results page, anything like that. Get them right to that car as soon as you can. That's the best experience for the consumer. Now, retargeting, same sort of idea. You can do a lot of cool retargeting with these tools, basically being able to match vehicles to what that consumer's looked at online, all that sort of good stuff. Being able to figure this out, and we'll go over the pros and cons in a sec, but being able to figure this out, of course, our world can help you, and we enable a significant number of agencies out there in the marketplace. So if you are looking for dynamic inventory advertising, you can just ask them for SpeedShift or ask them for the Auto Audience Network, and they can likely help you. If you're already working with a partner, you can point them in our direction, and we all work together quite symbiotically. Now, the pros and cons of this side of thing, right? So you've got the pros, proactive approach. Okay, the benefits of being able to complement and actually improve the performance that you get from your search engine optimization and your search engine marketing, right? So when you're out there in market saying, hey, we've got this car on the lot, you should really check it out, of course, the consumer's response, only some of the time, is to click. A lot of the time is to then later, from a view of that ad, the view through, right, is to go through and punch in the details in their browser, or to punch in the details in that ad bar, that search bar, or into the Google machine directly to go and find that car. So you're going to see a nice boost. Make sure you pat the right folks on the back when you see that, right? Looking at those benefits. So the retargeting, obviously a bonus. You're probably doing some retargeting right now, right? Many of our partners that we start to work with have already been doing retargeting for a long time. For us, we've been doing dynamic inventory retargeting for about 6 years. So it's in our heritage. Our blog, but it's, you know, a piece that when done correctly you can get a lot of benefit, as opposed to just saying, hey, we've got used cars, you were on our site and we've got used cars. Show them a couple of the specific vehicles that they've looked at, and show them other vehicles that are specifically interesting to them based on what they've been searching for, based on what they've looked at your site. The typical con on this side of things, and we've walked into many environments where a consumer, a dealer has said, hey, you know what, I've been trying to do this for 2 years and I haven't figured it out, so I'm going to work with you guys, right? It can be difficult to create and maintain this kind of thing in-house. And that's why we end up working with so many agencies, supporting them with it, and so many large dealer groups that have everything else in-house, but they use our technology to make this work effectively for them, because we've nerded out on it for quite some time. So another winner, and I think the last of our 3 key winners, is this idea of getting specific inventory into your Facebook environment. So specific vehicles, you've got maybe specials that you want to promote, and we can help you in that world as well. Getting those specials into Facebook. You've got the ability to retarget within the Facebook environment. There's all sorts of neat pieces that are being evolved within this Facebook environment. In fact, a few years ago, we spent some time chatting with the folks over at Facebook and hearing where things are going, and it's some pretty exciting times for sure. So this is another one that you can consider to put multiple vehicles in, have them in on a carousel, target those vehicles to specific consumers, all that sort of good stuff. The pros, right? Make, model, level targeting. Okay, with inventory, you can get even more specific, so you can get into the real details. With the ability to have a really extraordinary ecosystem. I mean, you know, you guys all know, listening on the phone, you probably checked out Facebook first thing this morning, maybe first thing before you go to bed. It's not, frankly, a world that I live in, but so many of my peers live in that world, including my beautiful wife, right? That's what folks are doing just on a regular basis. Con side of things, it's difficult to scale, particularly if you're talking about many environments, right? If you're talking about a large volume of websites that you're trying to set this up for, or if you're trying to get lots of inventory into these environments, it does become trickier and you want to reach out to friends to help. It's not ideal for all pre-owned vehicles, right? So what ends up happening is you can get into something that's super unique, and being able to really promote that to the right folks can be tough. And then working with partners, performance is going to vary from one to the next. And frankly, it's just probably a matter of service and time spent, that sort of thing, being able to manipulate those solutions, because actually all of the technology within Facebook is Facebook-specific technology. So you can do this yourself if you want to take the time, but you can also take some work off your plate, find some operational efficiencies of working with a partner. So let's have a look again. We're going to review all these pieces, right? So when we're talking about need to have, need to drop, and need to win, we can talk about brand and offer-based solutions, right? We can talk about make and model solutions, and we can talk about inventory solutions. So obviously on the winning side, we're talking specific units, specific stock numbers or VIN, right? So when we're talking about search engine marketing, you can actually live in all of these places. So make sure to err on the side of the need to have or need to win. Ads that are just promoting the fact that you've got used cars, congratulations, you're a used car dealership. Of course you have used cars, right? So make sure you get a little more focused. Make sure you talk about model and keyword, those key pieces that are going to help you drive that traffic, and take someone to a search results page that talks to the vehicles that they're looking for, or get it right into dynamic search, into the winning strategy for pre-owned vehicles of dynamic search. On display, right, you can have all sorts of brand offer ads, and there's tons out there, and frankly that is exactly why display gets such a bad name in Tier 3 automotive or in automotive retailing. When you're talking about the OEM or the Tier 2, the branded ad, the Ford family pricing ad, all those sorts of things see significant benefit. But when you're talking about trying to move metal, get dynamic, get specific, and get into the inventory that is going to drive that specific consumer to your location for that specific vehicle. That's the way to win with display. On the Facebook side of things, right, two pieces of that. Of course, you can get into the brand and offer-based stuff, but really most common is to put vehicles in, talking about make model, like we saw with that Honda Civic, or getting into specific VIN-based inventory, right, specific inventory-based ads where you're talking about the specific vehicles that you've got available on the lot, getting people's attention. Okay, listings, getting into that listings world, really it's pretty much that need to have, right? If you're going to compete in that world or in any of these spaces, having your vehicles in a searchable environment, be it AutoTrader and CarGurus, or be it Cars.com and CarGurus, depending on the region that you're in, you're going to make those decisions in the Canadian market, so make it Kijiji and AutoTrader, however it is that you're going to make that work, being able to have that all work effectively. So then the level of optimization, right, for each of those, okay? So we're talking about you want to optimize what you're doing, right? To optimize for pre-owned, we're talking inventory, right? So that first piece, super low on that need to drop, just punt it, right? Those things, if you're doing them, poo-poo them quick and get on to something else, right? If you got into that need to have model, right, those medium level of optimization, right, you can take the time and you can create evergreen ads if you've got similar make models all the time, and you can get those up on the key sites. And then to win, get into that high level of optimization for pre-owned vehicles and make sure you're focused on inventory specifically. Okay, fun fact, right, all of these tools, when you're talking about specific vehicles, you can use them in the new car world as well as the pre-owned world. The used car marketing aspect, if you're not focusing attention on that to a particular important percentage point, you should be, and try to influence the folks around you and use some great tools to be able to help you do that, right? Then you're going to have total inventory marketing and bringing all those pieces together, right? So total inventory marketing, right, we're talking about being able to get real specific with those vehicles. So on the new side of things, you can do the same sort of thing, right? You can get into all these pieces and get the SRP in front of that consumer, drive that consumer to the SRP to check out those Ford-focused vehicles in this case. Or if you're talking about new, you might want to think about co-op, right? You might want to think about dynamic inventory where you can actually put those new vehicles in and get co-op approval on those templates and get those funds back from your OEM if you're doing that too. So these are things that you can share with your new car manager in the office or new car marketers. And then the same sort of thing on that Facebook side, right? You can get those vehicles in there, so making those new pieces work for you. So, many of these things are transferable, but frankly, there's a lot of alternatives when you're talking new. There's not a lot of substitutes for any of these things when you're talking pre-owned vehicles. You got to get focused on that model, and you got to use a bunch of these tools that we've talked about on the winning side, and certainly on the need to have, even just to remain competitive. So let's have a look here. We've figured out together so far today, and we'll get into some questions here in just a sec, so get ready to fire those off. So we are talking about being able to make more money on pre-owned vehicles, not needing fixed ops, not needing F&I to be able to make that money in the long term, right? Let's make some money right off the top. Let's focus some effort and some advertising on those pre-owned vehicles, as many of you probably are, but here's some tools, right? We've looked at some tools to help you accelerate that effort and to drive that focus within your organization. The consumer, right? We learned about that consumer. The consumer is looking for a specific vehicle. If they can't find it on your lot, they're going to find it on someone else's. If you don't find them externally, they're going to find someone else. So you want to make sure that you've got those vehicles all lined up and ready to go. You want to get very specific with inventory. So you want to be making sure that you're putting the right inventory in front of the right consumer at the right time. You've heard that before. Now make sure you actually get into working with some of these pieces. And then we've got those complements, okay? All of these pieces end up being transferable to new, but there's not much in the way of substitution for those pre-owned vehicles. So make sure you find a way to get into working with some of these dynamic tools. So that's that for today. Let's go up with some questions, and then if your question doesn't get answered in this period, of course, you can reach out to me directly or one of my team members.
Excellent job, Ian. Thank you so much. And just a reminder here that we are recording today's webinar. So if you'd like to review some of the great material that Ian has shared with us today, or pass it around the dealership, watch your inbox for a message containing a link to that recording coming to you as soon as possible, so you can use this information again. And if you do have a question today, please use the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel to ask a question of our expert today, Ian Cruikshank from Speed Shift Media. And Ian, to get the conversation started, you did a superb job emphasizing the need to have components of listings that a dealership has. What are your best practice recommendations as far as stores potentially investing in more of those premium listings to try to get that inventory highlighted? How can perhaps a store use its resources in that manner in the best way possible?
Okay, so as far as it sounds like the question is relative to third-party listings environments and how to best use those premium listings or spotlights. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
All right, all right. So what I would say in this day and age, unless you're being, I guess, highly strategic about it and using those specific vehicles that you need to move and keeping them focused on areas where people are actually searching for those specific cars, oftentimes those are used willy-nilly, I would actually say don't invest the time, don't invest the money into putting those into the third-party listings environments. Your vehicles, consider a consumer going into a search environment today. You see it in search ads marketing too. A consumer going into this environment is more likely to click on an organic result than they are to click on a paid ad. The consumer has been trained over years and years to focus on specifically what they've searched for. And one of our customers actually said it best, and it's a great guy, Rick Farbo, who's up in Chicago, and they moved a lot of money out of premium listings into dynamic inventory display in order to get better returns effectively. And he puts it like this: if someone is searching for a black IS350, nothing is going to get them to click on red 350 that you're promoting in the spotlight. It's just not what they want. And the reality is, oftentimes when you're using these spotlights, you're spotlighting things that you want to move. Focus on the user and what they want to buy, and you'll win all the time. Too often we're getting on this dealer focus. Yeah, we want to focus on you guys. Yeah, we want to focus on the folks that are driving the business out there. But remember, the real people driving the business are the users. The real people buying those vehicles and paying everyone's bills here on a call home, wherever we are, is you focus your attention on making sure that the user is getting what they want, or that you're finding those users in market effectively. You're going to get significantly more value. So don't focus too much attention on driving that effort to get those pre-owned additional costs working for you.
Excellent, excellent. The voice you're hearing is Ian Cruikshank, who's the VP of Sales and Marketing at SpeedShift Media. His contact information is there on the screen, and welcomes inquiries about how SpeedShift Media can help your dealership succeed. And another question that's come in, Ian, is certainly a difficult one that undoubtedly many dealerships face, is just how many man hours should stores dedicate to this process, whether they complete these tasks completely in-house or work with an agency. Just what's been your assessment and experience of how many man hours a store should dedicate to this inventory process?
Excellent, excellent. Great question, and an important one to consider when you're thinking about making these changes and making these moves. And it's interesting. I think in every environment, when you make a change, when you look to do something differently, and we're even finding that with some of our marketing today for our business, we're doing things a little bit differently, right? When you do something different, there's upfront investment in time. So you're initially going to have to spend significantly more time on this to get set up, to learn, to understand what's going on. And it's the kind of thing where you, if you as the marketer in the business have been doing all sorts of other stuff, maybe some of these need to drop or need to have pieces, and you're looking for these need to win pieces, you're going to need to invest some serious upfront time to get a clear understanding of what's going on, right? And that depends on aptitude, capabilities, current capabilities, but I'd say between probably like 10 and 40 hours. So consider it, you know, if you're spreading it out over the month, spending a few hours a day or spending a few hours a week, or if you're spreading it out even over a shorter space of time, really dedicating a week to it. Everything that you're doing aside from your typical day-to-day being focused on these efforts. Don't forget, everyone, after hours, you can learn a lot of fun stuff. And for those of you that aren't bringing your marketing efforts home or your work home, every now and then it makes sense to do that. Every now and then it makes sense to have that coffee and go for it for the betterment of your potential in the future. Now, that being said, once you've got everything set up and everything is running, the ability to get to the point where you just spend an hour a day, okay, or even 30 minutes a day, maybe an hour or two once a week to check in and see how everything is rolling and make sure that it's performing as it should is there, right? And I think people should do this. I was just speaking at an event in Toronto last week, and it was a similar question. Whether you're working with a partner or whether you're doing it on your own, you really need to have a clear understanding of what's going on, right? So that you're not getting, you know, if you're working with a partner and, you know, you're looking at the results, you want to be able to work collaboratively with them. You want to make sure that the results that you're getting are what you should be getting, and you want to be able to understand what you're chatting about, right? So take the time to understand these pieces. And if it's not you, right, if it's if maybe there's some senior team members on the phone that, aren't necessarily used to doing this kind of stuff, look out into the market, find some folks. There's lots of digitally savvy people out there in the marketplace, and they may have some of the skills that you're looking for. Make sure you find those people that are willing to dig in, do that DIY work, and learn on the job, right? You may be able to get someone even for 35 grand, that sort of thing, a starting wage as a young marketer, right? And be able to help them learn, send them on the right path so that they're learning, investing that time, because it'll pay dividends most definitely as you go. Hope that helps for your question.
Excellent recommendations, and another follow-up along the same lines has come in, and we certainly welcome your questions using the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel. And Ian, kind of along the same lines again, following up from the previous question, is perhaps once those man hours are invested, are platforms and software available that can sort of automate the process, perhaps once some parameters have been established? There are any recommendations there of how dealerships could possibly leverage some automated systems to, once they establish what they want to do, to help in that regard?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a ton of great tools out there, and I think one of the dangers, though, and I'll emphasize my answer on the dangers of getting into automated tools, because yes, I think at this stage of the game, many of the folks that you'll find or that you're already working with will have some form of solution for automated efforts to help you with dynamic inventory within search engine marketing, or dynamic inventory within display. Now, what happens is many folks, many companies will put so much stock in these tools that they won't spend the man hours internally to make sure they're delivering on a regular basis. Programmatic, right, has become an interesting and in some cases sought after, in some cases, poo-pooed word. And I would say that makes good sense in both cases. There is value in these automated or programmatic solutions to be able to get scale out of what you're trying to do on a daily basis, right? To be able to automate everything you're trying to do with inventory. Now, that being said, programmatic display or programmatic, dynamically focused search or automated search, those things don't work flatly for Tier 3, for very localized environments, for very localized retailers that are looking to move metal without working with the man hours involved to tweak, optimize, adjust, ensure that things are doing the best possible job, right? One of the things that we find and we hear from a lot of our customers is that they've worked with folks that are providing a great automated solution. It's fantastic. You don't have to do anything. Set it and forget it. To us, that's the most dirty word out there, that set and forget idea. If you don't have someone helping you, if you don't have someone on your team or someone externally like SpeedShift or like another provider that is working on those things every day, you're not going to get the best result that you could. And in fact, you'll probably find yourself in a situation where you've got all sorts of traffic that is just not of the same value that you're targeted on. You really want to make sure that you've got folks working with you to ensure that you're staying on top of those pieces. Automate is great, takes a lot of the burden off, but make sure it's being used correctly and make sure it's being attended to on a regular basis by a human being.
Very good advice. That's the voice of Ian Cruikshank, who's the VP of Sales and Marketing at SpeedShift Media, and he's the special guest expert we have on our webinar today that's being recorded. So keep watch of your inbox for a message containing a link to today's session so you could review the great information that Ian has shared, and as well as distribute it around the dealership so you could perhaps enhance your strategy and make the possible changes that Ian has discussed here today. And Ian, another question that comes in reference to perhaps change. Near the end of your presentation, you referenced the use of Facebook that some folks have, that they check into this platform many times per day, and a store manager is wondering that perhaps maybe not push all of their chips, so to speak, into the Facebook pot, but perhaps allocating more resources to that platform. If you could revisit the capability of Facebook and how dealerships can leverage that platform that seems to be used by so many people.
You bet. And actually, it's an interesting piece that's happening over the time period these days, is that there's more and more solutions being brought into play for Facebook. Where I would say some of the benefits of Facebook come, one, for now, because of, again, supply and demand, why SEM is getting so expensive. Facebook is the opposite situation. Fewer folks are spending dedicated funds within the Facebook environment. As a result, the cost of Facebook ads is typically a little bit lower. You can actually do pretty well with $500 a month in the Facebook environment. The other cool thing is that you can get quite specific, and you know, when you're talking about a low-cost opportunity to market vehicles, I would focus on vehicles, frankly, that you don't want to spend a lot of money on, right? When you're thinking about, okay, you've got a very unique vehicle, you've got a, actually just drove by my office window, it's a Mini Cooper S with a red vehicle with a white roof and 2 white stripes, that kind of thing. That's not for everybody. Right, but you can probably spend some time looking in the marketplace, showing off that vehicle, getting it out to a wide audience that fits the specific demographic and psychographic of a vehicle like that, and get the attention that you want at a low cost. Okay, the other fun piece is that consumers today within the Facebook environment, you can actually set up your ads so that they don't necessarily just click to your location or click to your vehicle detail page. You can actually have them click to a web form that a consumer can fill out with their Facebook info. Now, this is such a new form and such a new practice within Facebook that it is actually confusing a lot of consumers. Funnily enough, when people are putting in their information, not all of them understand that that means a dealership will follow up. So ensure that your BDC or your folks on the floor that are following up with those folks are sensitive to that. But there's lots of great ways to be able to get information out of those environments. So I would say, you know, in a top 3 sort of situation, it's cost effective. You can focus on very specific pieces of information or very specific vehicles within that environment at a low cost. And the last piece would be making sure that you're aware of how those leads perform and how those consumers are performing after they've clicked in those environments. But there's lots more tools coming up from Facebook. Keep an eye out, and certainly if you want to figure out some more details, you can ask us after the call.
And if you do have questions following the webinar, Ian's contact information is there on the screen to follow up if discussions at your store lead to questions. Both his email address and office number are there on the screen.
And I'll just say that, that typically I'm very easy to find, right? So this is proof of it. You don't have to worry about that. You should be able to find me without any trouble.
Excellent, excellent. Well, to closing stages here of our time with Ian Cruikshank with Speed Shift Media. Another element to touch on in the used vehicle department is the certified pre-owned units that dealerships might have in their inventory. What suggestions would you have there to leverage the strategy that you highlighted today to push those certified pre-owned vehicles, especially in light if the store gets some support from its parent OEM? How can stores best leverage these tools in the certified pre-owned space?
Sounds good. And actually, CPO is an area that we're seeing a lot of these days. We're actually working with a number of manufacturers at the OEM level to help them with their CPO program. If you yourself are looking to get more value out of your CPO, let us know, or you can be the conduit to helping us get in touch with your tier 2 or tier 1 players. But the kicker is, all of these pieces, being focused on pre-owned, have that exact same benefit when talking CPO. Now, the thing that I would change or that I would add to this effort is when you're talking certified pre-owned vehicles, making sure to call out within the ad unit. So it may be a simple banner at the bottom to say that these are certified pre-owned ad units. And when you're talking about that vehicle detail page, if you've got a CPO vehicle on your vehicle detail page, make sure you're calling out the value proposition of purchasing a certified pre-owned vehicle. And it's likely the guarantee, right? So the warranty on that vehicle. It might be the inspection, the servicing. It might be the year of it, that it's got no collisions, all that kind of stuff. All of those things, you want to make sure that you call that out to the consumer. We all totally understand and know what the benefits of a certified pre-owned vehicle are. But the consumer who's in the market buying a car that hasn't had a new car purchase in the last 3 to 5 years, that sort of thing, they may not have any idea what CPO is. So make sure to call that out, to communicate it, and to make it real clear to that consumer that they're getting additional benefit by purchasing those vehicles. And yeah, each of these tactics, particularly dynamic inventory display, can be very helpful with your CPO efforts.
Very good, very good. Again, the voice you're hearing is Ian Cruikshank, who's the VP of Sales and Marketing at SpeedShift Media, our special guest expert here on our webinar, which is being recorded. So keep watch of a message in your inbox that will have a link to this recording and other materials so you can review and discuss it at your dealership. To round us out here, Ian, perhaps some initial steps that stores can take, the dealerships that maybe just want to fine-tune some of their inventory promotion strategies, or perhaps for the stores that want to tear up what they're doing and start from scratch. What would you recommend as a couple of initial steps for those potential extremes, the ones who want to just fine-tune as well as the ones who want to reboot their entire strategy?
Sounds good. I think the first thing that's really important for all of us is really to properly assess where you are today, at what stage you are in this process, whether you're sitting there in the world of only running need-to-drop style solutions. So you may well be marketing purely on the basis of, hey, we've got lots of pre-owned cars. And unfortunately, that's just not good enough in the market today. But to do that, there's actually a resource on our website to help you decide on particular solutions. So it's speedshiftmedia.com/resources. We've actually got a scorecard, a solution that you can just download and work with your peers to come up with all of the metrics that you need to assess whether something is providing significant value to your business. Of course, cost is going to be one of those, and working with great people is going to be one of those, but it's going to be a matter of the inventory aspect, being able to promote specific inventory, being able to promote specific parts. So first off, a really solid assessment of what it is that you're doing. Then if you're not the one to make those decisions, you got to make sure to get that team member in your business, whether it's the GM or principal, whoever it is that signs the checks, you got to get them on board with what you're thinking, with your strategy, with your plan. It's a real nice idea to come up with a great plan, but without the commitment from senior leadership, a lot of the time, you can't take that through to execution. So you want to make sure to go through that part of the process. And then it's a question of figuring out, okay, where am I going to start? Am I going to start just by moving into these need-to-have pieces? If I don't already have those, great. A lot of those you can execute on your own. And going beyond that, then it's a question of reaching out to partners that you trust, reaching out to folks in the marketplace, and starting to make those changes, right? So foundation, figure out what you've got, make sure you've got support, and get out there and find folks that can help you with it. And of course, myself and my team would be happy to help you, but you may already be working with an agency, and you can just work with them to have them find those folks that do great with dynamic inventory.
Excellent way to close it out, Ian, who's the VP of Sales and Marketing at SpeedShift Media. Thank you so much for the great advice and recommendations, Ian. A lot of things for stores to consider.
Absolutely my pleasure.
And thank you so much for joining us, and all the best of continued success. Thank you again.